Now that we're familiar with Jamf Protect, we can start to explore the workflow to detect threats on enrolled computers. This is Zach. Welcome to Threat Detection Tools. In Jamf Protect, threat detection begins with enrollment. Once a computer is enrolled in Jamf Protect and assigned a plan, the Protect agent works in the background to silently detect threats or malicious actions on the Mac and report those back to Jamf Protect. Depending on how the plan is configured and what type of threat is detected, different actions may take place in Jamf Protect or on the Mac itself. Let's take a look. For this demonstration, let's assume we've already integrated Jamf Protect with an MDM provider and deployed the Jamf Protect PKG to a test Mac. In my case, I'm using Jamf Pro. Enrolling a computer in a Jamf Protect plan is relatively straightforward. All we need to do is to obtain the plan configuration profile from Jamf Protect and deploy it via MDM to a Mac. Let's begin by clicking Plans in the sidebar. As mentioned in Lesson 7, Jamf Protect comes pre-configured with a default plan. Let's create our own for this demonstration by selecting Create Plan at the top. We can give this plan a name. I'm entering Training Team Max. We can add a description as well. I'm entering Jamf 170. Recall that you can have multiple plans active in a Jamf Protect instance and use your MDM to deploy specific plans to individual computers. Next, we can assign an action configuration to this plan. An action configuration tells the Protect client on the Mac what events to log, how much information to log about each event, and where to send that information. Similar to plans, Jamf Protect is configured with a default action configuration, which I'm selecting now. We'll create our own shortly. Next, there are options to configure settings for the Protect agent that will live on the enrolled Macs. We can tell the agent to automatically update, I'm leaving that enabled, and select a communications protocol. MQTT:443 is used for macOS 10.13.5 or later, and MQTT:8883 is used on macOS 10.13.4 and earlier. If your environment uses transparent or explicit TCP proxies, you may select WebSocket/MQTT:443 to use that protocol. Next, we can tell the agent what action to take when threat prevention detects a malicious action. Block and report, report only, or disable threat prevention altogether. I'm leaving this set to block and report. We can specify what amount of data the Jamf Protect agent sends to the macOS Unified Log in the Log Level pop-up menu. Each subsequent level in the menu builds upon the previous to send more and more data. It's recommended to leave this at the default selection, Error. Next, we can specify directories, binary identifiers, or executables that are excluded from triggering an alert with the Exception Sets menu. Jamf includes a default set of these in every Jamf Protect instance called the Jamf Manage Default Exceptions. You can create your own exception set by navigating to Plans, Exception Sets, but for our purposes, I'm leaving the default exceptions selected. We can also set removable storage controls to block or allow the use of different types of removable devices with the Macs with this plan configuration. This is a great option for organizations with strict data management and privacy policies, but for this demonstration, I'll leave this blank. See the Jamf Protect documentation linked in the resources for more information on removable storage controls. Next, we can set what data is collected from each Mac endpoint and sent back to Jamf Protect. Architecture, hostname, kernel version, memory size, model, OS, and serial. Enable or disable these with the checkboxes as needed. I'm leaving each item selected. Finally, we can choose to enable or disable the collection of Insight data for Macs assigned to this plan. Recall from Lesson 5 that Insights are informational status updates about Macs and their compliance with different profiles from the CIS benchmark for macOS. We can also control how often the Insight status is updated in the Insight Collection interval field. The default is 1,440 minutes, or 1 day. I'm shortening this to 720 minutes, or 12 hours. Be aware that in environments with a large number of endpoints, setting this collection interval to a small value can degrade performance. These settings look good to me, so we can save the plan with the Save button at the top. We're now prompted to add analytics to our plan. Analytics are sets of rules or patterns that are used to detect malicious behavior on the enrolled Mac. We can use the checkboxes at the left to granularly add or remove different analytics to our plan. For this demonstration, I'm adding all available analytics by selecting the checkbox in the column header and then clicking Save Plan Analytics at the top. At this point, we could download the profile and deploy it with Jamf Pro to complete the workflow. Clicking the Custom Profile button at the top right allows us to customize how the profile is generated by Jamf Protect. By default, all options are enabled, so things like the profile being signed, including the PPPC and system extension payloads, and the Protect root CA and CSR certificate are included. Clicking Download in the bottom right will download the profile, and at that point we could move on to Jamf Pro. Perhaps, though, we decide we need to change the action configuration for this plan before deploying it. Rather than create a new profile, we can create our action configuration and then edit the existing plan. Navigate to Actions in the sidebar. Here we can see the default action configuration that Jamf Protect has created. We can create our own by clicking Create Action at the top. Give the configuration a name, I'm using Training Team, and a short description if desired. Action configurations are used to control how much data is collected from enrolled Macs and where that data goes when they send it back to Jamf Protect. Using the checkboxes under Cloud Collection options, we can choose whether to send the data to Jamf Protect at all, along with a minimum and maximum severity level, or to a third-party solution, or both. If you are integrating with a third-party data management solution, we can expand the Remote Collection Endpoints and Unified Logs Collection Endpoints fields to enter the destination URLs for your chosen solution. For this demonstration, I'm just sending my data to Jamf Protect, so I'm leaving the checkbox unselected and each of the endpoint fields blank. Finally, we can modify what data is collected when an alert is triggered on an enrolled Mac. Click the plus button under Alert Data Collection Options to expand the list of all possible data points. For our training team, I want to collect just the bare essential data rather than everything, so I'm selecting the Minimal Radio button. After selecting Minimal, we can see several data attributes automatically move to an Excluded Data Attribute field under each category. If we decide that we actually do want a specific attribute collected, say the current user during a file system event, we can add that attribute back by clicking the plus button. The radio button will automatically switch to custom, and we can further edit the attributes as needed. This looks good to me, so I'm clicking Save at the top. Let's add this configuration to the plan we created and get it deployed. Navigate back to Plans in the sidebar, and then select the plan we created. Click Edit, and then select our action configuration from the Action Configuration pop-up menu. Click Save to finalize the plan. Now that we're ready to deploy, we could use the Custom Plan button to download the plan as we saw before, but we could also return to the Plans page and use the Download button next to our plan name to download the plan with the default deployment options. At this point, we can deploy the configuration profile with the MDM solution of your choice. Jamf Protect integrates directly with Jamf Pro to deliver a seamless deployment experience. Integrating with Jamf Pro automatically syncs your plans from Jamf Protect and updates the profile after any changes are made, without the need to manually download and upload the profile. If you're already a Jamf Pro customer, check out the Get Started with Jamf Protect series in the training catalog for a full walkthrough. I use Jamf Pro to deploy the profile to this Mac, so let's confirm that our settings are in place and the computer is now protected under our plan. Start by navigating to System Settings, Privacy and Security, Profiles. We can see the Training Team Max Plan profile has installed as expected. If we double-click the plan, we can scroll and see that we have all the included custom options, like certificates, PPPC, and system extensions. The Jamf Protect agent is also accessible via the command line. Close System Settings, open a new terminal session, and enter sudo space protectctl space info. This displays a status update for the Protect agent. We can see the uptime, version, protection status, as well as timestamps for the last check-in and insight submission. Note the plan ID and hash fields. If we return to Jamf Protect and select our training team max plan, we can see the ID value displayed in the URL field and the matching plan hash under the description. This Mac is now fully secured by Jamf Protect. So far, we've explored the theory behind threat detection and mitigation, the Jamf Protect interface, and have a Mac enrolled in Jamf Protect. Be sure to continue in our next lesson on threat mitigation, where we'll cover examples of malicious events on a Mac and the alerts and workflows that can be taken in Jamf Protect to remedy them. Thanks for watching.